The stars looked different from this far out. Commander Jake Morrison pressed his face against the observation window of the UES Defiance and stared into the endless black. 3 months ago, he had been looking at familiar constellations from Earth orbit. Now he was farther from home than any human had ever traveled. "Sir, we're picking up something strange on the long-range sensors," called Navigator Lisa Brooks from her station. Her voice cut through the quiet hum of the ship's engines. Jake turned away from the window and walked to the bridge. The Defiance was humanity's newest deep space exploration ship. It was built for one purpose: to find out what was beyond the edge of human space. For 50 years, humans had been spreading to nearby star systems, but they had never gone this far into unknown territory. "What kind of something?" Jake asked as he settled into his captain's chair. Chief Engineer Ryan Carter looked up from his console. "It's artificial, sir, no question about it. Someone built whatever we're seeing out there." Jake felt his heart beat faster. First contact. This was what every space explorer dreamed of finding. Proof that humans were not alone in the galaxy. "How far?" he asked. "About 2 light hours ahead," Lisa said. "It's big, sir." "Really big." Communications Officer Kevin Stone adjusted his headset. "I'm not picking up any signals from it. Whatever it is, it's been quiet for a long time." Jake nodded. "Take us in slowly. I want full scans of everything. And Kevin, start recording everything. If this goes wrong, I want Earth to know what we found." The Defiance moved forward through space at a careful pace. As they got closer, the object became clearer on their screens. It was a massive structure, shaped like a diamond and covered in strange symbols that glowed with a soft blue light. "It's some kind of beacon," Ryan said, studying the readings. "The energy signature is unlike anything I've ever seen. This technology is way beyond what we can build." Jake stared at the alien structure. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The symbols seemed to shift and change as he watched them. "Sir," Lisa said quietly, "I think we should be careful. This thing might be some kind of warning." Before Jake could respond, the beacon suddenly came to life. The blue glow became brighter, and new symbols appeared across its surface. A deep, humming sound filled the Defiance, coming through the ship's hull itself. "What's happening?" Jake demanded. "It's scanning us," Ryan said, his fingers flying over his controls. "The beacon is reading our ship, our computers, everything." The humming grew louder. Then, without warning, it stopped. The beacon's glow faded, back to its original soft blue, and the new symbols disappeared. "Is it over?" Kevin asked. Before anyone could answer, a new set of symbols appeared on the beacon. These were different from the others. They pulsed in a steady rhythm like a heartbeat. "It's sending a message," Kevin said, excitement in his voice. "A signal going out in all directions. Really powerful. It'll reach other star systems in a few hours." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "What kind of message?" "I can't translate it, but the pattern is clear. It's telling someone that we're here." Far across the galaxy, in a place where 3 ancient civilizations had built their greatest achievement, the message was received. The Eternal Nexus was a space station the size of a small moon, home to the Galactic Council. For thousands of years, it had been the center of galactic government. High Counselor Zethkar of the Zephyrians was in deep meditation when the alert came through. The Zephyrians were tall, thin beings with large heads and pale skin. They could read minds and had been the leaders of the galaxy for longer than most species could. Remember, the message interrupted his thoughts like a sharp knife. He opened his silver eyes and reached out with his mind to the communication center. "What is the nature of this alert?" he asked, his thoughts traveling instantly across the station. "A boundary beacon in Sector 7739 has been triggered," came the reply from Communications Director Yelthar. "Unknown vessel, unknown species. The beacon's scans show primitive technology, but they achieved faster-than-light travel." Zethkar stood up from his meditation chamber. This was unusual. New species were discovered every few hundred years, but they were always primitive. They had never encountered one that could travel between stars. He walked through the crystal corridors of the Nexus to the council chamber. The other members were already gathering. The Vorthak were there, looking like living statues made of colored crystal. The Nelari floated in their containment suits, their gaseous bodies shifting between different colors. "Show us the data," Zethkar commanded. The chamber filled with holographic displays. The alien ship appeared before them, along with the beacon scan results. The ship was small and crude compared to their own vessels, but it was clearly capable of interstellar travel. "Interesting," said Counselor Nexara of the Vorthak. Her crystal body rang like a bell when she spoke. "They have achieved warp drive centuries before our projections suggested they should." "What species are they?" asked Counselor Wilson of the Nelari. His gaseous form glowed purple with curiosity. "Unknown," Zethkar replied. "The beacon classified them as unregistered sapients. They are not in our databases." The three counselors looked at each other. This had never happened before. Every species in the galaxy was known to them. They had been watching and guiding younger civilizations for millennia. Where did they come from? Nexara asked. "The Outer Rim," Zethkar said. "A small system we classified as having no intelligent life. We must have missed them during our last survey." "That was only 500 years ago," Wilson said. "How could they have developed so quickly?" Zethkar studied the data more carefully. The ship's technology was primitive but functional. More importantly, it was clearly military in design. These beings had built their first interstellar ship as a warship. "They appear to be a warrior species," he said. "This vessel is armed." "Concerning," Nexara chimed. "Most species we encounter are peaceful by the time they reach space." The council fell silent. For thousands of years, they had maintained peace in the galaxy through their superior technology and wisdom. They had never encountered a species that might challenge their authority. "What do we do?" Wilson asked. Zethkar made his decision. "We send an envoy. Ambassador Velanara can handle first contact. She has experience with primitive species." "And if they prove hostile?" Nexara asked. "Then we will deal with them as we have dealt with all threats to galactic peace," Zethkar replied. "But I doubt it will come to that. They are just one small ship from one small world. How dangerous could they be?" Back on the Defiance, Jake was making his own decisions. The beacon continued to pulse with its mysterious message, and his crew was growing nervous. "Sir, I recommend we leave," Lisa said. "That thing is calling someone, and we don't know who," Jake nodded. "Agreed. But first I want full scans of everything. This is the discovery of a lifetime." For the next 6 hours, the Defiance studied the beacon from every angle. They recorded its energy patterns, analyzed its construction, and tried to decode its symbols. When they were finished, they had learned one important thing. Whoever built this beacon was far more advanced than humanity. "Set course for home," Jake ordered. "Earth needs to know what we found." As the Defiance disappeared into warp space, the beacon continued its steady pulse. The message had been sent, and somewhere in the galaxy, ancient powers were stirring. Humanity's first contact with the elder species was about to begin, and nothing would ever be the same. The galaxy was about to learn that humans were not just another primitive species waiting to be guided. They were something new, something the elder species had never encountered before. They were survivors, fighters, and explorers who would not bow to anyone. The age of human expansion was about to collide with the age of elder species dominance. Only one would survive unchanged. Ambassador Velanara of the Zephyrians had dealt with primitive species before. In her 300 years of diplomatic service, she had made contact with dozens of young civilizations. They were always the same, small, scared, and grateful for. The guidance of the elder species. Her ship, the Starlight Harmony, was a masterpiece of elder species technology. It was built for diplomacy, not war. Its hull was smooth and white, covered in symbols that showed peaceful intentions. Inside, everything was designed to make other species feel comfortable and safe. "Ambassador, we are approaching the target system," reported her pilot, Subcommander Dextel. Initial scans show multiple inhabited worlds. Velanara looked up from her meditation. Multiple worlds? The beacon data showed only one planet with intelligent life. That's what I thought too, Dextel said. But I'm reading cities, space stations, and ships throughout the system. Lots of ships. This was unusual. Most species barely managed to leave their home planet when the elder species found them. Velanara moved to the observation deck and watched. As her ship entered the system, what she saw made her stop breathing. The system was full of human activity. Massive space stations orbited every planet. Ships moved between worlds in constant streams. On the asteroid belt, she could see mining operations that stretched for millions of kilometers. This was not a primitive civilization. This was an empire. How many ships are out there? She asked. Dextel checked his instruments. Over 10,000 in this system alone. An ambassador, they're not just cargo ships. Most of them are military vessels. Before Velanara could respond, her communication system came alive. The voice that came through was strong and confident. Unknown vessel, this is Admiral Catherine Blake of the Terran Defense Fleet. State your business in human space. Velanara had never been challenged so directly by a species she was supposed to be helping. She composed herself and activated the communication system. Greetings, I am Ambassador Velanara of the Galactic Council. I come in peace to welcome your species to the galactic community. There was a pause, then Admiral Blake spoke again. Stand. By for escort, do not deviate from the course we give you. Any aggressive action will be met with force. Velanara was shocked. No species had ever threatened her before. As she watched, 12 human warships appeared around her vessel. They were smaller than her ship, but they moved with precision and purpose. Follow us, came the command from the lead ship. The escort took her to a massive space station orbiting the third planet. As they approached, Velanara could see that the station was heavily armed. Weapons arrays covered every surface, and smaller ships moved around it like guards. This is Orbital Defense Station Alpha, Admiral Blake's voice said. You are cleared to dock at Bay 7. The docking bay was huge, big enough to hold 20 ships the size of hers. But what caught Velanara's attention were the humans waiting for her. They were not primitive beings in simple clothes. They wore military uniforms and carried weapons. Admiral Blake stepped forward as Velanara left her ship. The human woman was tall and strong, with gray hair and sharp eyes. She looked like a warrior. Welcome to Earth space, Ambassador, Blake said. I hope you'll forgive our caution, but we don't get many visitors. Your caution? Velanara asked. Admiral, I represent the most powerful alliance in the galaxy. We have been keeping peace among the stars for thousands of years. Blake smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. That's nice. But this is human space, and we have our own rules here. They walked through the station's corridors, and Velanara saw more evidence of human military power. Soldiers were everywhere, and the walls were covered with displays showing ship positions and weapon readiness. How many ships do you have? Velanara asked. Enough, Blake replied. We'll discuss that in the briefing room. The briefing room was full of human military officers. At the head of the table sat a woman in civilian clothes. Ambassador Velanara, Admiral Blake said. This is Dr. Helen Murphy, our leading expert on alien species. And this is General Frank Lewis, head of Strategic Command. Dr. Murphy stood up. Ambassador, we've been expecting you for quite some time. Expecting me? We detected your beacon network years ago, General Lewis said. We've been monitoring your communications and preparing for this moment. Velanara felt a chill run through her. You've been spying on us? We've been learning about you, Dr. Murphy corrected. We know about the Galactic Council, the elder species, and your policy of guiding younger civilizations. We just wanted to be ready. Admiral Blake activated a holographic display. Let me show you what we've been doing while you were deciding whether to visit us. The display showed the solar system, but not as Velanara had seen it before. Now she could see the full extent of human expansion. Dozens of worlds, hundreds of space stations, and thousands of ships. This is just our home system, Blake said. We have colonies in 47 other systems. Our total fleet consists of over 50,000 ships. 50,000? Velanara whispered. That's just the military ships, General Lewis added. Our civilian fleet is 3 times that size. Captain Danny Rivers entered the room. He was young but carried himself like a veteran soldier. Admiral, the fleet exercises are ready for our guest. Excellent, Blake said. Ambassador, would you like to see a demonstration of human military capabilities? Velanara nodded, though she was beginning to feel overwhelmed. This was not how first contact was supposed to go. They moved to the observation deck, where they could see space around the station. Captain Rivers spoke into his communicator. All ships begin exercise thunderstorm. What happened next left Velanara speechless. Hundreds of human ships appeared from what seemed like empty space. They had been hiding using technology that made them invisible to her ship's sensors. The ships moved in perfect formation, creating attack patterns that Velanara had never seen before. They were fast, aggressive, and coordinated. How long have you been preparing for war? She asked. We're always prepared for war, General Lewis replied. It's what we do. But why? The galaxy is peaceful. Dr. Murphy looked at her with curiosity. Ambassador, in your experience, what happens when a powerful civilization encounters a weaker one? We guide them. We help them grow and develop. We bring them into the galactic community. And if they refuse your guidance? Velanara hesitated. That has never happened. It's happening now, Admiral Blake said quietly. The demonstration continued for 2 hours. Velanara watched as human ships showed off their speed, firepower, and tactical abilities. By the end, she understood that humanity was not just another primitive species. They were a military power that could challenge the elder species themselves. Why are you showing me this? She asked. Because we want you to understand something, Blake said. Humanity will not be guided, controlled, or limited by anyone. We make our own choices. The Galactic Council will not accept this, Velanara warned. Then the Galactic Council will have a problem. General Lewis replied. As the meeting ended, Velanara realized that everything had changed. She had come expecting to find a small, grateful civilization. Instead, she had found an empire that was ready to fight for its independence. Captain Rivers walked her back to her ship. Ambassador, I hope you'll tell your council that we want peace, but we want it on our terms. And if they refuse? Rivers looked at her with the same hard expression she had seen on all the human faces. Then they'll learn why we're called the dreaded Armada. As the Starlight Harmony left the solar system, Velanara prepared her report. She knew that when the Galactic Council heard what she had to say, everything would change. The elder species had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, but now they faced something new. Humanity was not just another species to be guided. They were a force that could reshape the galaxy itself, and they were not going to ask permission. The Galactic Council had never held an emergency session like this one. High Counselor Zethkar stood before the assembled representatives of 300 species, his silver eyes reflecting the tension in the chamber. Members of the Council, he began, his voice carrying across the vast space, we face an unprecedented situation. Ambassador Velanara has returned from the Outer Rim with disturbing news. The holographic display showed images from Velanara's visit to human space. The massive fleets, the armed stations, the military demonstrations, murmurs of concern rippled through the chamber. These humans, Zethkar continued, have developed military capabilities that rival our own. Worse, they have refused to accept Council authority. Counselor Nexara of the Vorthek stepped forward. Her crystal body chimed with agitation. In 5,000 years of galactic governance, no species has ever refused our guidance. They must be made to understand their place. What do you propose? Asked Counselor Wiltham of the Nilari. Zethkar activated another display. We will offer them one final opportunity to join the galactic community peacefully. If they refuse, we will take appropriate action. The ultimatum was written in simple terms that even a primitive species could understand. The humans would restrict their expansion to their current territory. They would reduce their military forces to defensive levels only. They would accept council oversight of their technology development. In return, they would be granted junior membership in the galactic community. Ambassador Velinara will deliver this message personally, Zethkar announced. The humans have 7 days to respond. 3 days later, President Maria Santos sat in the Situation Room beneath the Global Defense Council headquarters. The ultimatum had arrived that morning, and she had called an emergency meeting of Earth's top leaders. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," she said, looking at the alien document. "They want us to stop expanding, get rid of most of our ships, and let them watch over us like children." Admiral Blake leaned forward. "That's exactly what they want, Madam President. They see us as a threat to their control." General Lewis slammed his fist on the table. 20 years ago, we didn't even know they existed. Now they want to tell us how to live. Secretary of Defense Paul Nixon studied the ultimatum carefully. "What happens if we refuse?" "They'll try to force us to comply," Blake replied. Velinara made that clear during her visit. Dr. Murphy had been quiet during the discussion. Now she spoke up. "I've been analyzing their technology and their behavior. I think we have advantages they don't know about." "What kind of advantages?" President Santos asked. "They've been peaceful for thousands of years," Murphy explained. "They've forgotten how to fight a real war. Their ships are built for show, not battle. Their tactics are outdated." Captain Tony Hughes entered the room. He had just returned from a secret reconnaissance mission to the edge of elder species space. "Madam President," he said, "I have a report from Operation Watchful Eye." "Go ahead, Captain." Hughes activated a holographic display. "My team observed 3 elder species fleets during training exercises. Their formations are rigid, their responses are slow, and they rely too heavily on their superior technology." "What about their numbers?" General Lewis asked. "Significant but not overwhelming," Hughes replied. "Most of their ships are exploration vessels or cargo haulers. Their actual military fleet is smaller than ours." Pilot Officer Amanda Clark, who had been part of Hughes' mission, added her observations. "Sir, their weapons are powerful, but they're designed for ship-to-ship combat. They don't have the flexibility our systems have." Weapons Specialist Greg Martinez nodded. "Their energy weapons are impressive, but they overheat quickly. Our kinetic weapons can fire continuously without that problem." President Santos looked around the room. "Does anyone here think we should accept their ultimatum?" The silence was answer enough. "Then we're agreed," she said. "Admiral Blake, what's our military readiness?" "All fleets are at full strength," Blake reported. "We have 8,000 ships ready for immediate deployment, with another 12,000 in reserve. Ground forces are prepared for any scenario." "Dr. Murphy, what about our technology programs?" "We're making progress on reverse engineering their shield systems," Murphy said. "My team thinks we can have working prototypes in 2 weeks." Scientists Rachel Davis and Steve Parker had been working around the clock on captured alien technology. Their breakthrough had come just days earlier. "The energy patterns are complex," Davis explained, "but we've figured out how to adapt them to our power systems." "How long before we can equip our ships?" Blake asked. 2 weeks for the first squadron," Parker replied. "A month for the full fleet?" President Santos made her decision. "We don't have a month. Send our response to the Galactic Council today." The message was simple and direct. Humanity rejected the ultimatum. They would not limit their expansion, reduce their military, or accept alien oversight. Earth was willing to discuss peaceful coexistence between equals, but would not submit to alien control. "And if they don't like our answer?" General Lewis asked. "Then we'll show them why we're called the dreaded Armada," President Santos replied. The response reached the Galactic Council 2 days later. High Counselor Zethkar read it 3 times before he could believe what he was seeing. "They have refused," he announced to the emergency session. "Not only refused, but they have demanded to be treated as equals." The council chamber erupted. In angry voices, no species had ever made such demands before. "This is intolerable," declared Counselor Nexara. "They must be taught their place. What do you recommend?" asked Counselor Wilson. Zethkara's silver eyes grew cold. "We will assemble the Grand Fleet. It has been 1,000 years since we needed to use force, but these humans have left us no choice." "How many ships?" Nexara asked. "All of them," Zethkar replied. "We will show the entire galaxy what happens when someone challenges the Council's authority." The order went out across elder species space. For the first time in a millennium, the Grand Fleet would gather. Ships from 100 worlds began moving toward the assembly point. War Commander Vexmol of the Vorthak was pulled from retirement to lead the fleet. He was ancient even by Vorthak standards, his crystal body clouded with age. But he had commanded fleets before, in the early days when the elder species were still establishing their rule. "How many ships will we have?" he asked his staff. 1,200 battle cruisers, reported his aide. "Plus support vessels, the total fleet will be 1,500 ships." "And the humans?" "Intelligence estimates 8,000 ships, but most are small vessels. Our ships are larger and more powerful." Vexmol nodded. "Numbers mean nothing without experience. These humans have never faced a disciplined fleet." "Back on Earth, Admiral." Blake was preparing for the fight of humanity's life. Intelligence reports confirmed that the alien fleet was gathering. "They're not hiding their movements," reported Commander Morrison, who had been promoted after his discovery of the beacon. "They want us to know they're coming. How long do we have?" Blake asked. 2 weeks, maybe 3, Morrison replied. Blake turned to her staff. "Implement Operation Darkstar. I want every ship, every station, and every weapon ready for battle." "Captain." Rivers had been given command of the 1st Defense Fleet. "Admiral, what about the civilian populations?" "Emergency evacuations are already underway," Blake replied. "But we're not running. We're going to make our stand here, in our home system." Flight Leader Beth Taylor, commander of the fighter squadrons, asked the question everyone was thinking. "Can we win?" Blake looked at her officers, these men and women who had dedicated their lives to protecting humanity. "I don't know if we can win, but I know we can make them pay for every inch of space they take." The die was cast. The elder species were coming with overwhelming force to crush humanity's rebellion. But they had underestimated their opponents. Humans had been preparing for this moment since they first looked up at the stars and wondered what else was out. There, the battle for humanity's freedom was about to begin. The Grand Fleet of the elder species was a sight that no living being had ever seen. 1,500 ships stretched across space in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with ancient power. War Commander Vexmol stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crystal Throne, and watched as his fleet approached the edge of human space. "Commander," reported his tactical officer, "we are detecting human ships throughout the system. They appear to be waiting for us." Vexmol studied the sensor readings. The humans had positioned their forces in a defensive pattern around their homeworld. It was exactly what he had expected from a primitive species. "How many ships?" he asked. "Approximately 8,000, as intelligence predicted. They are smaller than our vessels, but they appear to be well armed." "It does not matter," Vexmol said. "Size and weapons mean nothing without proper strategy. Signal the fleet. We advance in standard formation." The Grand Fleet moved forward like a massive wall of metal and crystal. The elder species had used this formation for thousands of years. It had never failed them before, on Earth. Admiral Blake watched the alien fleet approach from the command center of orbital defense. Station Alpha. The displays showed the enemy ships in perfect rows, advancing slowly and steadily. "They're not even trying to hide," observed Captain Rivers, who stood beside her. "They want us to see how powerful they are." "That's their first mistake," Blake replied. She activated the fleet communication system. "All units, this is Admiral Blake. Operation Darkstar is now active. Remember your training, follow your orders, and show these aliens what humans can do." Strategic Commander Janet Cole had spent months planning Operation Darkstar. Instead of meeting the aliens head-on, The human fleet would use the solar system itself as a weapon. Phase 1 begins now, Cole announced. All ships to hidden positions. Across the solar system, human ships disappeared. Some hid behind asteroids. In the belt between Mars and Jupiter, others used the radiation from the sun to mask their signatures. Still more waited in the cold darkness beyond Pluto. Their engines silent and their weapons ready, War Commander Thexmal frowned as his sensors lost track of most of the human ships. Where did they go? Unknown, Commander. They appear to have some kind of stealth technology. Find them, Thexmal ordered. No primitive species should be able to hide from our sensors. But the humans were not hiding with advanced technology. They were using tactics the elder species had forgotten during their long peace. They were using the environment, patience, and cunning. The Grand Fleet continued its advance, searching for an enemy that seemed to have vanished. They were halfway to Earth when the first attack came. Captain Rivers led the first wave from his position in the asteroid belt. The UES Harbinger burst from behind a massive rock, followed by 50 other ships. They hit the alien formation from the side, firing everything they had. All weapons fire. Rivers commanded. Human kinetic weapons tore into the elder species. Ships. The aliens had expected energy weapons, not solid projectiles moving at incredible speeds. Their shields, designed to stop laser beams and plasma bolts, were less effective against chunks of metal. Traveling at a significant fraction of light speed, 3 alien ships exploded before they could react. 5 more were badly damaged. Return. Fire. Thexmal shouted, but the human ships were already gone, disappearing back into the asteroid field before the aliens could reorganize. The second wave hit them from the opposite side. Captain Lucy White led her squadron in a lightning attack that destroyed 4 more ships and damaged 6 others. They're using hit-and-run tactics, observed Thexmal's tactical officer. This is not how civilized warfare is conducted. Thexmal was beginning to understand that these humans did not fight like civilized beings. They fought like predators. The attacks continued for hours. Human ships would appear from nowhere, strike hard and fast, then vanish before the aliens could respond. The Grand Fleet's perfect formation began to break. Apart as ships moved to chase attackers who were no longer there, Admiral Blake watched the battle from her command center. The first phase was working perfectly. How many alien ships have we destroyed? 43 confirmed kills, reported Commander Morrison. We've damaged at least 60 more. Our losses are minimal. Excellent. Begin Phase 2. Phase 2 was Flight Leader Beth Taylor's operation. Her fighter squadrons had been hiding throughout the outer system, waiting for their moment. Now they struck like a swarm of angry insects. The fighters were too small and fast for the alien ships to target effectively. They darted between the massive vessels, firing at engines and weapon systems. The elder species had no equivalent to human fighters. Their ships were designed to fight other large vessels, not clouds of tiny attackers. Commander, called Thexmal's communications officer, we're receiving a message from the human fleet. Put it through, Thexmal ordered. Admiral Blake's voice filled the bridge of the Crystal Throne. War Commander Thexmal, this is Admiral Catherine Blake of the Terran Defense Fleet. You are ordered to withdraw from human space immediately. Thexmal activated his own communicator. Admiral Blake, I am War Commander Thexmal of the Galactic Council Grand Fleet. You will surrender unconditionally, or we will destroy your entire civilization. I don't think so, Blake replied. You came here expecting to fight primitives. But we're not primitives, we're humans. And humans don't surrender. The communication ended, and Thexmal realized that his enemy was not going to be intimidated. These humans were actually fighting back, and they were doing it effectively. Sir, his tactical officer reported, we've lost over 60 ships and haven't destroyed a single human vessel? This was impossible. The elder species had superior technology, larger ships, and more firepower. How were these primitives winning? The answer came in Phase 3 of Operation Darkstar. General Lewis had been waiting with a special surprise. Deep in the asteroid belt, hidden among the rocks and debris, were weapon platforms that had been Built in secret over the past year, these platforms were not ships. They were giant guns, each one the size of a city block. When they fired, their projectiles could punch through any known armor. All platforms target the alien command ships, Lewis ordered. The platforms opened fire simultaneously. Massive projectiles screamed across space toward the alien fleet. The elder species ships, focused on fighting the human fighters and avoiding the hit-and-run attacks, never saw the shots coming. The crystal throne shook as a projectile the size of a building struck its hull. Alarms blared throughout the ship as systems failed and compartments depressurized. "Damage report," Vexmol demanded. "Heavy damage to the port side," his engineer reported. "We've lost main weapons and half our shields." Around the Grand Fleet, other command ships were suffering similar hits. The humans had identified the most important targets and struck them first, but the humans were not finished. Dr. Murphy's team had finally cracked the secret of elder species shield technology. Chief Engineer Carter had been working around the clock to install the new systems on human ships. "Admiral," Carter reported, "the shield upgrades are online." "We're ready for close combat," Blake smiled. "All ships advance. Show them what the dreaded Armada can really do." The human fleet dropped its stealth and appeared throughout the solar system. Thousands of ships, now protected by alien shield technology and armed with superior tactics, charged toward the confused and damaged alien fleet. Captain Nick Brown led his squadron directly at the alien center. The UES Vengeance and her sister ships opened fire with everything they had. This time, the human ships did not run. They stayed and fought, their new shields protecting them from alien weapons. The battle became a close-range slugging match, and the humans discovered something important. They were better at this kind of fighting than the aliens were. The elder species had spent so long keeping peace that they had forgotten how to wage war. Vexmol watched in horror as his grand fleet, the most powerful force in the galaxy, was torn apart by these impossible humans. His ships were being destroyed faster than he could count. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "perhaps we should consider withdrawal." For the first time in his long life, War Commander Vexmol was considering retreat. The humans had done the impossible. They had defeated the elder species. In open battle, the age of elder species dominance was ending, and the age of humanity was about to begin. The news of the Grand Fleet's defeat reached the Galactic Council within hours. High Counselor Zethkar stood in the emergency session chamber, his silver eyes reflecting the shock and disbelief of the assembled representatives. "Impossible," whispered Counselor Nexara, her crystal body dim with despair. "The Grand Fleet has never been defeated. Not in 5,000 years. War Commander Vexmol reports the loss of over 800 ships," Zethkar announced to the silent chamber. "The remaining fleet is in full retreat." The implications were staggering. The elder species had built their entire civilization on the belief that they were superior to all other forms of life. Now, a species they had discovered just weeks ago had shattered that belief. "What do we do now?" asked Counselor Wilson, his gaseous form flickering with uncertainty, before Zethkar could answer. The chamber's communication system activated. A human voice filled the space, strong and confident. "Members of the Galactic Council, this is Admiral Catherine Blake of the Terran Defense Fleet. I am requesting immediate negotiations." Council members looked at each other in confusion. The humans were requesting negotiations after destroying their fleet? This was not how wars were supposed to end. "Admiral Blake," Zethkar replied, "you have attacked the lawful forces of the Galactic Council. There can be no negotiations until you surrender." Blake's laughter echoed through the chamber. "High Counselor, I think you misunderstand the situation. We didn't attack your forces. We defended our home from invasion, and we won." "You cannot have one," Nexara protested. "You're a primitive species. This is some kind of trick." "Ma'am," Blake replied, "I have 1,500 human ships surrounding your space station right now. Would you like me to prove how primitive we are?" The council members rushed to the observation windows. There, in the space around the eternal Nexus was a sight that none of them had ever imagined. Human ships filled the void, their weapons aimed at the heart of elder species civilization. How? Zethkar whispered. We followed your retreating fleet, Blake explained. It wasn't hard. Your ships leave quite a trail when they're running for their lives. Supreme Commander Blake, as she was now known, had led the human fleet on a journey across the galaxy, but she had not come to conquer. She had come to negotiate from a position of strength. What do you want? Zethkar asked. We want what we've always wanted, Blake replied. Recognition as equals. The right to expand freely through the galaxy, and the end of elder species dominance. The words hit the council like physical blows. For thousands of years, they had been the undisputed masters of the galaxy. Now these humans were demanding to be treated as equals. This is unacceptable, Nexara said. Then you can explain that to the rest of the galaxy, Blake replied. Because they're all watching right now, she was right. News of the human victory had spread throughout elder species space. On worlds that had been under council rule for millennia, people were asking questions. If humans could defeat the elder species, what did that mean for the galactic order? President Maria Santos arrived at the Eternal Nexus 3 days later. She came not as a conquered leader, but as the representative of a new galactic power. Secretary Nixon and General Lewis accompanied her. Along with a full diplomatic team, the negotiations were held in the Council's Great Chamber, but the dynamic had completely changed. The humans sat as equals at the table, not as supplicants, begging for acceptance. President Santos, Zethkar began, the Galactic Council is prepared to offer humanity a place in the galactic community. What kind of place? Santos asked. Junior membership, Zethkar replied. With appropriate restrictions on your military and expansion, Santos smiled. High Counselor, I don't think you understand. We're not asking to join your community. We're telling you that the galaxy has changed. Ambassador Sarah Johnson, humanity's first diplomatic representative to the galaxy, stepped forward. The age of elder species dominance is over. We propose a new galactic order based on cooperation between equals. Equals? Nexara protested. You have existed for barely a moment compared to us. You know nothing of galactic governance. We know enough, General Lewis replied. We know that your way of governing doesn't work anymore. You've grown soft and complacent. That's why we beat you. Ambassador Velanara, who had been silent during the negotiations, finally spoke. Perhaps. It is time for change. The Council has not faced a real challenge in thousands of years. Maybe these humans can teach us something. Teach us? Zethkar demanded. They are warmongers and barbarians. We're survivors, President Santos corrected. We do what we have to do to protect our people. If that makes us barbarians in your eyes, so be it. The negotiations continued for weeks. The humans were patient but firm. They would not accept anything less than full equality. They would not limit their expansion. They would not reduce their military forces. Finally, a compromise was reached. The new Galactic Compact would establish humanity as the fourth major species in the galactic community. The elder species would maintain their territories and influence, but they would no longer have the right to control other species without consent. This is a new age, President Santos announced as the compact was signed, an age where no species dominates another, where cooperation replaces control. The ceremony was broadcast throughout the galaxy. On thousands of worlds, beings watched. As the old order officially ended and a new one began, Admiral Morrison, now promoted to lead the new Galactic Patrol, stood beside President Santos as she signed the document. The Galactic Patrol would be a joint force, with ships from all species working together to maintain peace. What happens now? Morrison asked. Now we explore, Santos replied. The galaxy is huge and we've only seen a tiny part of it. Captain Rivers, now commanding the exploration fleet, was already preparing for humanity's next great adventure. The UES Harbinger had been refitted for long-range exploration, and his crew was eager to see what lay beyond the borders of known space. Sir, Navigator Brooks reported, "We're receiving signals from the galactic edge. Unknown civilizations, possibly dozens of them," Rivers smiled. "Then we better go say hello." The transformation of galactic civilization was not without its challenges. Many elder species worlds struggled to accept the new reality. Some welcomed the change, while others resented the loss of their privileged position, but humanity's influence was already being felt. Human tactics and strategies were being studied by military academies throughout the galaxy. Human technology was being adapted and improved by species that had been stagnant for centuries. Dr. Murphy, now head of the Galactic Research Council, worked with scientists from all species to share knowledge and develop new technologies. The combination of human innovation and elder species wisdom was producing remarkable results. "We're making breakthroughs I never thought possible," she reported to President Santos. "When you combine human creativity with Zephyrian telepathy or Vorthak crystalline technology, amazing things happen." In the shipyards of Earth, Mars, and dozens of other human worlds, new vessels were being built. These ships carried crews from multiple species, working together as equals. The sight of a human captain commanding a ship with Zephyrian, Vorthak, and Nilari crew members was becoming common. But humanity had not forgotten the lessons of their first contact with the elder species. The dreaded Armada continued to grow. Now, with ships stationed throughout the galaxy, they served as a reminder that humanity would never again be underestimated or controlled. The galaxy had entered a new age. The age of elder species dominance was over, replaced by something that had never existed before: true cooperation between equals. And at the heart of this new order was humanity, the species that had refused to bow to anyone. The stars belonged to everyone now, and humanity had made sure it would stay that way.